There we go. And we return a couple of nights later back to Sam and Selena after Selena's meeting with Ghost, the Ghost, and the Langley, or as Sam likes to refer to him in his head as the Lankley. Lanky, I screwed up that joke. Sam is disappointed with his brain, as he is, well, keeping his promise to Selena, and has invited her over to his soul mansion. And, well, she asked to be picked up. Where would she like to be picked up? Would she like to have dinner first?
She could be picked up at Ghost's Club. The one, not the one where the Elysium was, the biker one. Because Sam would know that she was going to meet Ghost.
Yeah, Sam shows up in some shiny Mercedes. Pretty high-end one. And yeah, he'll get out and open the door for Selena like a proper gentleman. He'll say, "My lady, how are you doing this fine evening?"
Very well as always, darling. And she'd kiss him right there in the open before getting into the car.
Yeah, no, Sam will enjoy that, and we'll head. We'll close the door, give you a smile and a wink, and we'll head back around and begin driving. Probably actually out towards the edge of town, because you know this would be probably in it's a mansion, so it'd probably be in a state, and we'll ask you. So I was wondering if you're a bit peckish. I've got some of my how to put them groupies over.
She narrows her eyes slightly. So, okay, I'm game if you are.
It's always good to it's good to share, you know.
Depends what you're sharing.
Actually, now that you say that, it's very true.
Speaking of sharing, you'll never guess who was in our sheriff's office when I arrived.
Aye, who would that be?
Mr. Langley.
Ah, him.
He is rather dishy to look at, and she looks at him directly to gauge his reaction when she says that.
He's gonna make a manipulation subterfuge roll to hide his emotion. Oh wow! 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 No specialty. That's 6 successes. He doesn't even look remotely phased. He looks like as cool as a cucumber. There's literally no change to his expression. I mean, he was bothered about Langley being brought up, but he doesn't really seem to care all that much about him at all. It's basically impossible to read him on his face right now.
Selena kind of pouts at his lack of reaction and says, he was looking rather dashing in his suit this evening. I must admit, I did flirt a little. You don't mind that, do you, darling?
I'm not going to keep you from having your fun, so long as you don't take it too far.
She kind of smiles and snuggles herself down in the seat. She's quite content with that answer.
Maybe you're right. Maybe I don't like sharing.
Well, if you want me to be yours and yours alone, darling, then maybe you should show it.
He'll pout and look jealous for her. But it's almost a bit comical, like he's fooling around with you a little bit.
She'd laugh and realise that she was being a little petty. But she would still add, you know, he wants to take me to my fundraiser.
Now that's just unacceptable, ain't it? I should really find someone far better looking than that lanky bastard.
She chuckles and says, got anyone in mind?
Oh, well, I don't know. I mean, I hear Damien's looking for a date.
She wrinkles her nose and just looks disgusted and just looks at him and says, really? You think that's funny?
Well, I guess I gotta teach you how to have a sense of humor, then.
There's nothing funny about Nosferatu, darling. Hideous creatures.
They can be functional. They're not pretty to look at.
I suppose functional, yes. But I do try not to deal with them unless I really have to.
Well, I'll try to keep you all to myself then.
She grins
Real
at them.
slow. Well, I suppose there's nobody else. And there is this rather dashing young Irishman who's just come into town.
She chuckles. So, you want to take me to the fundraising ball?
Why, it would be my honor, of course.
You know, the sheriff did suggest that she may accompany her ghoul. And she obviously looks distasteful at the word ghoul.
Sam looks a little confused. Not necessarily disgusted, because he has no idea who... this is Ghost School, right?
Yeah.
He has no idea who Ghost School even is. Other than maybe one of the security guards. What? He seems almost amused.
She has this ghoul at the club. A fairly attractive woman, I suppose. And it was suggested that she may ask you to accompany her friend. But I put a stop to that.
He seems to smile rather widely when you say that. Well, she may be my sheriff, but I'm not sure she can tell me to do that. Unfortunately, her little friend will be disappointed.
I suggested that Warren take the ghoul.
Well, he really is only worth that much.
She looks to him with an interested expression. You really don't like him that much?
We got off on the wrong foot, and well... Did I tell you about that Nina girl?
No.
Well... There was a bit of an issue. of Yakuza. Two of their men just died in Triad Turf. There was a huge meeting about it. I later found on a camera that Nina would be the one that killed him. And she was caught on camera jumping halfway up a building and leaving a small crater at that.
She kind of shakes her head, like, so dumb.
She'd also gotten into something of a scuffle with Emily, and I wasn't there for that. I don't think she would have won. And well, she's she's just another fucking anarch.
They're all trouble. Each
Yeah.
and every one of them.
Trouble that also happens to be Ghost's sister.
She raises her eyebrows. Our sheriff gets more and more interesting.
Aye, well, as it turns out, I take this evidence to Emily because I'm not entirely sure if Ghost is actually going to pull the trigger on this one. And what do you know, Warren's also there, and he speaks up for her quite strongly. He even blames Emily for starting a fight between her and Nina a few days ago.
And he defends an anarch masquerade breaker.
I showed him the evidence.
The man's clearly an idiot.
Well, he's basically a placeholder primogen, isn't he? It's not like the rest of the brood had much of a choice. I mean, Ajax just wants to deal with his books, and he's the keeper of Elysium, doesn't really have time to be running the rest of the clan. One's a fledgling, the other one's been, well, he's being held because he broke the masquerade himself. And, well, the last time someone tried to become primogen and sheriff, the Harpy was not too pleased. Not that I would care too much. If I think I'm best for both roles, I'd take it anyway.
She looks like she approves of that.
So, literally just left. All lanky.
Well, you know, darling, I thought flirting with him may upset the anarch bitch.
I haven't really talked much with her. I met her once and I saw her when we went to the anarch camp. Well, refugee camp. It's full of Camarilla and anarchs. Don't really know much about her other than that she seems fairly unfriendly and seems to be quick to threaten everyone around her. Which doesn't surprise me.
I asked Warren about her. He maintained that their relationship was all in the past.
They had a relationship? Oh, well, how to explain it?
Yes, apparently so. So,
well, if that's all in the past, I don't really see then. Well, that probably speaks worse of him then, if he's defending an arc, regardless. Oh well.
Ideally, the whole bunch of them would be cast from the city. There really isn't any place for them.
We've already got an anarch domain. Why don't they just go there? Don't see why anyone else should have to give up space for them.
Yeah, she nods in agreement.
Well, they tend to be rather an inconsistent bunch. I don't really care so long as it's in their little hole.
I feel that they should just pick a side and stick to it.
Exactly.
All this sitting on the fence in the middle, it just doesn't sit right with me at all.
Yeah, I thought they were supposed to be like idealists and all that, but they suddenly seem to be playing the political game. If they just go out and say it, I'd be fine. But they're like, oh no, we're trying to do the right thing. We're fighting for everyone's freedom. Yeah. And I'm the Messiah, sent down from the Lord of Heaven himself.
She chuckles along with him.
Now, only one of those things is false.
He gives him a strange look and says, are we nearing your place? I'm a little peckish.
Yeah. You notice that you're kind of reaching the edge of town now. Like, it's still in the princess's domain, but it's probably only like a few miles out from actually being outside it. And he'll stay. Yeah, that'll be doubled over for you. Dinner for two.
She just looks at him strangely. Says, okay, darling.
Just like to warn you, though. Yeah. Every venture has their thing. I'm sure you understand.
Of course, darling. It's not just Ventru that have feeding preferences.
Right.
But she's clearly interested in seeing this preference of his.
Oh, well, Sam will just say, rest assured, none of them are as beautiful as you.
He smiles at that, accepts the compliment, but she's still kind of on her guard. She's trying not to let any jealousy show too much, though.
Sam will roll perception empathy. That's only 2 successes, actually. But yeah, you might spot perhaps a hint of uncomfortable sentiments, and he'll just kind of wink at you and say, "It's all right. I expect you to keep an eye on me."
Oh, I will be. Have no fear of that.
Well, it's much better when you have your eyes all over me.
She grins at that. But she's still looking forward to seeing exactly who he's got there for them to feed on.
Yeah, they'll park up. It's a small state, so there's gates and everything. It's all very fancy. You see a rather lovely mansion before you. It's not huge, but it's got, it's a mansion, it's big. There's some space and a fountain in front of it. It's almost stereotypical. It's quite baroque. Quite almost Victorian in a way. And yeah, he'll open the door for you.
He stepped gracefully out of the car. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, he'll open the door and use the other hand to take yours.
Did she take his hand, step gracefully out of the car, and cast an approving glance around his estate and at the house itself? Nice place you have.
I'm glad you think so.
It's a good job I do. Chances are I'll be spending quite a bit of time here. And she looks straight at him to kind of gauge his reaction to that.
Yeah, he wraps his arms around your waist and says, I wouldn't have it any other way.
She kind of presses herself up against him. She's happy with that answer.
Such a big place gets lonely every now and then.
Not anymore, darling.
He gives that similar sly smile, and yeah, we'll kiss her passionately for a little bit, and then we'll walk in with her. And well, it takes a few rooms. It's, you know, there's the grand entrance hall and a few other places, and you have to walk along a few corridors and up the stairs. It's in it's actually in the one of the studies that they're basically two women basically unconscious. They're comfortable. He's definitely make sure they're not like you know, they're not in any uncomfortable position or in any danger, but they're out. Looks like they maybe have had too much to drink or something, or maybe they were forced into sleeping, perhaps through the power of the mind. It's a bit unclear, but they're definitely out, and they're certainly not getting up anytime soon. They seem to be in a rather deep sleep.
Are they fully clothed?
Yes.
She would look at them both as she walks in, and then move over to them and kind of grasp their faces one by one in her hand, kind of turn each of their faces from side to side, getting a good look at them, basically comparing whether they're as beautiful as her or more so.
I'm gonna roll a. There's no d5, but it makes more sense that I'd be rolling a d4 anyway, just to check their appearance levels. So this is for the first one. Actually, no, I'll just roll 2d4s. Okay, so one looks okay, the other one is quite attractive, but obviously nowhere near as good looking as Selena.
She kind of passes by the less attractive one and spends a bit more time looking at the prettier one, and then turns to him and says, "Do you like her face?"
She has a pretty face.
But not as pretty as mine.
He will use his one of his knuckles kind of tips her chin upwards towards him so that she's looking directly into his eyes, and will say, "I think we both know how I'm going to answer that question."
He smiles at him and kisses him briefly, and then says, "Okay, precious, let's feed."
Yeah, Sam will give a more attractive one, almost as like a gift for Selena, and will take on the more average-looking one, knowing that perhaps Selena is more comfortable that way, because there's less competition there. And we'll we'll just slip his fangs into her neck, and there's like a small gasp of air.
Selena takes note of which one he chooses and then moves to the more attractive one. But as she feeds, she's kind of watching him, seeing where he puts his hands on the woman he's feeding from. Just marking the situation, watching how he is.
Well, obviously, as it's the kiss, he definitely takes pleasure from it, but it doesn't appear to the way he's moving his hands doesn't appear particularly touchy-feely or sexual in nature. He has his hands on her arms, And when she bites, he kind of slips the randa back a little bit so she doesn't fall over or anything. She doesn't roll off her seat or the sofa. It's almost like a cradling gesture, but it's not particularly endearing.
Selena's, she's satisfied with that, and she just closes her eyes and gets on with feeding.
Sam takes and keeps his eye on her as well, just in case. Also, partially out of petty retaliation.
Once she's done feeding, she would kind of stand up, straighten the woman up, make sure she's all as she was when she found her, and just delicately with one finger dab each corner of her mouth, make sure she hasn't spilled a drop, and then somewhere to sit down, relax.
Yeah, there are some. There's this seat. Sam sits in it. It's only for one person. He invites you to sit on his lap. He'll pat his legs.
Yep. You'd go right on over there and curl up in his lap. So, are we to be attending the next Elysium with little old me on your arm?
Maybe.
Turns to look at him and pouts. Maybe?
You know, I've got a secret to keep. He taps her on the nose.
She kind of tuts at him and looks a little downtrodden, like a little bit huffy at that. She kind of thinks for a minute and then says, "But darling, if you don't have to share me, why do I have to share you? Even if it is with a lesser."
He considers that statement for a while as he realizes you make a valid point. Says, "You are right, we'll separate, but it's not so easy. She is, you know, the blood makes people do some foolish things."
Explain it to me. What is it about her? You said it was a political arrangement. In what way?
My last name was Mason and not a Spillane. I ain't part of the family that runs this city.
Okay.
I told you before about how I was more or less given an arbitrary decision. That was it.
She kind of mulls that over for a minute.
Marry the girl or marry the dirt.
So, if I was to insist that you gave her up, it would cause you problems, yes?
It would take some time, but When I'm running this gang, none of that's going to matter anymore.
She kind of snuggles into his chest and says, "Well, Precious, I don't want to cause you problems, but you must understand, a girl gets jealous."
No, I get it. I really do. I wouldn't be happy if I were in your position either. And he kind of wraps his arms around her. Sorry for causing you so many problems.
No. He kind of shrugs, like, "No problem." But then she kind of sits up and looks him square in the face and says, "You don't sleep with her, do you?"
Oh no! You stopped doing that months ago.
Okay. He kind of settles back down again. She seems quite content with that. Finger kind of plays with her hair and she says, "So you're mine?"
He plays with the other side of her hair and kind of runs his hand down it until it rests on her cheek and says, "Absolutely yours."
She grins at that. And she's just comfortable sitting there so close to him. She's happy with the way things are going.
Yeah, with his hand rested on her cheek, Sam will use that to give her a light kiss on the lips.
She puts her arms up around his neck and kisses him back.
So when I'm at the top of the food chain, things are going to be a bit different and you don't have to worry about this anymore.
And will I still be standing next to you when you're at the top of the food chain?
Always.
You can see that makes her really happy. She kind of runs her finger down his cheek and says, "You know, you remind me of my father."
He seems very curious at that. It gives him a smile, but it's definitely a curious look in his eyes. He says, "How so?"
You just, you seem to share a lot of similarities with him. He had a similar past to your own. He was a hell of a guy, just as you are.
Well, I've always been a hell of a guy.
She chuckles at that. She gestures over to the two unconscious women. "Shouldn't we go somewhere more private? I mean, I know they're not watching us, but still."
Oh, yes, I prefer a bit more seclusion. Never know. This makes me feel a bit uneasy. Never know who could be watching.
In my experience, there's always someone watching.
Not here, there isn't.
She stands up off his lap and reaches a hand out, kind of pull him up out the chair.
What happens? Yeah, Sam takes that. Sam, yeah, he allows you to lift him out of the chair. He seems quite happy with that.
She kind of leads him towards the door and says, "So, Which way's the bedroom?
With that, Sam gets a very mischievous grin on his face. With that hand you helped lift him up with, he quickly wraps it around you, and you end up in a position where he's basically bridle carrying you.
She'd let herself get swept up and carried.
His head just nudges in a direction. He seems to begin walking towards it. And yeah, there is a very lovely master bedroom of even the fancy drapes. It's gilded. It's probably the best looking room in the entire house.
She approvingly around the room, although it does kind of flicker through her mind to wonder just how many other women he's entertained in this room, how many other women he's impressed with it. But she kind of shakes that off. Enjoy the night ahead.
Yeah, and with that, Sam will rock her world, and I think we'll end the scene there.